This video talks about death and bereavement as a result of blood cancer. If you're affected by this, please call our free support line on 0808 2080 888.
I'm glad he did not decide to go back into hospital. And, it was just the right thing. It was hard. But what I've found since, I wish we had been told what to expect or what to do after he died. Because now I have so many regrets not to have stayed in his room. It is important to take time and not rush off as we did to make phone calls to various family members. And I think if people just knew how to deal with it, at least they would have a choice. If they would know, take your time, there's no rush. It's the most important time after death to, for the loved ones to be there. Or if they don't want to, then at least they decide not to. But like hundreds of years ago, people grew up with people dying in the house. They were so in tune with dying that it wasn't unusual for them to be around dead people. So I think that's a regret I have there, that we were not told what we should or could do. But that was another chapter. So that was 3 days before Christmas that Matthew died.
Yeah, that's really awful to not know, because that did give us the time to be able to do things. Rob, he chose not to have radiotherapy because it meant more hospital appointments. And like Matthew, he didn't want to go back into hospital. He did have a problem with his spleen. So that was an overnight stay, but they said, as it's because of the leukemia, we're not going to take your spleen out or anything like that. So he was just sent home with some more medication. But it did get to the point at the end of November where it was so painful. And we'd already contacted the hospice, and there just happened to be a hospice nurse where he'd had a blood transfusion in the hospital. And she said, why don't you just come in to the hospice and we'll sort out your pain relief? And I was amazed. Rob immediately agreed, because he did originally say that he wanted to die at home. But he said, yeah, okay. And she said, well, do you want to come in tonight? And he said, yes, please, I really would. So he must have been in quite a lot of pain. Well, we were very lucky that as he was a young lad, they let him have a room on his own, and they said that I could stay as well, which is what I'd done. In fact, I'd been sleeping in Rob's room on the floor as well, because he was afraid of dying in his sleep and didn't want to be on his own. So I'd done that at home, but they allowed me to stay in the hospice, and they were so good. They said, right, we'll sort out your medication, sort out your pain relief, and basically just use the hospice as a base. If you want to stay here, you've got your room. If you want to go home for a night, then that's fine as well. But come back here and we'll do all of your medication. So that was, on my behalf, I thought, actually, I can now be his mum again. I don't have to deal with all the medication. I don't have to be his carer. I can be his mum, because we didn't know how long he'd got, to be honest. So you want to enjoy that time, because it is really precious. Rob went in on the 1st of December, and that week they managed his pain wonderfully. He went to see Machine Head, which was one of his favourite bands at Wembley. He went with his best friend Matt, and he went with his older brother Ad. Mark took them up in the car, and he had a fantastic time, because he was really worried about going. But they sorted out his medication and said, no, you go. It's absolutely fine. We'll give you the medication. You can take it while you're there if you get anxious, which is what he did. And the funniest thing, there is a funniest thing. Apparently he kept on about this light show that was happening, and neither Ad or Matt could see a light show. So whether it was a side effect of his meds, I have no idea. But anyway, it added to the enjoyment for Robin. But for the whole of that week, he did various things, such as he wanted to do a zookeeper's experience. So he did that. He met up with friends. He had friends come around to see him. And the family could go in whenever they wanted to. They allowed our dogs to go in and see him as well, because he'd missed them for the whole year. We had 2 dogs. So that was really lovely. But he was in there for 10 days. That was all. He got up on the last day, 10th of December, after he'd been to see his friends the night before. And he was due to go to see... he was going to go to Cole United to a football match in the afternoon, but he hadn't had a very good night, so he was quite sleepy, but he got up quite late, went and had our breakfast and came back to the room, and I think his brother, both of Adam and Toby had arrived, and Mark had arrived as well, and he went and had a shower, and he came out of the shower and literally said, "I really don't feel very well," and basically brought up his breakfast. And he was in so much pain, I had to grab him, put him on the bed, press the button for the nurses to come, and they came really quickly. And they got him into bed, and that was the last sort of conscious moment I had with Rob. Called everybody in the room. Luckily, our the immediate family was there. My sister came as well. So we were all there, but he died fairly quickly. They said that they think he was having an episode that he wasn't going to recover from. So we don't know whether that could have been his spleen that had erupted or whether it was his liver. We're not sure. But they made him really, really comfortable. We were all round the bed with him, talking to him. So we were there at the end with him. I mean, I had to give him permission to go. Because he was holding on. I could see that he was holding on. And I didn't want him to suffer anymore. And I just said to him, "Rob, love, if you've got to go, then you go. We're all here. We all love you." And he took one more breath after that, and then he'd gone. So, it was a peaceful death for him, which is all you can ask for, really, after the year. But I think the thing that we took most solace from was the fact that he took charge of his life at the end when he'd had such a horrible year. He had he couldn't control anything. He did everything, like he helped to arrange his funeral. He arranged to see people that he hadn't managed to see. So it gave him that control at the end, which helps with our memories as well.